can't talk about species management without talking about succession. So this is something that's going to be taking place in the landscape, whether humans are taking part in succession or if it's just natural. So succession is basically the way plant communities change over time. They can go forward, they can also go backwards. So say man-made changes could be a timber sale or mowing or disking. Natural ways could be a flood or a fire. Anything like that could also set succession back. Without disturbances, you have forward movement of succession. So the plant communities, ones that are more shade tolerant, will start taking over. And you'll start off from kind of a bare ground up to a mature forest. So first off, we'll start at bare ground. This is kind of the beginning of everything. So this is, say, a soybean field, bare ground. It's been treated. They're not going to do anything with it. So this would be the very beginning of your succession. So you're going to start seeing some broadleafs taking hold. These are going to be kind of your annuals, things that are relying on seed production. So you're going to see a lot more wind-blown seeds are going to be landing in. This is kind of the start of everything, but it's also good habitat to have around. When we're talking like brood rearing for pheasants and turkeys and other birds, it's a lot easier for a small chick to try to pick up insects on these broadleafs out here. There's not enough escape cover, but it's a great way for them to feed and also get some seeds. So this is kind of the base of where everything would start from. Your next set of succession, we're going to be talking about going into some more perennial grasses. So these are ones that are going to winter over. So they're not really reliant on that seed production to have more growth the next year. So you usually have two different ones. So Monique talked a lot on the warm season, so I won't cover too much on that. I'll just talk about the cool season. The ones that a lot of us are probably familiar with in CRP contracts are going to be through like filter strips or like a CP1. It's going to be an introduced grass, you'll hear it called, because they weren't native here to Michigan. So a lot of the ones you'll see will be Timothy, orchard, redtop, and usually they're mixed in with a broadleaf, like a legume. So a clover or an alfalfa, and there's many different types of clovers as well. As on this field here, you can see it's getting pretty close to the end stage of the grasses, to where there's no more legumes. It's basically all grasses. And then after the grass, we're going to be looking more for woody vegetation. So this is kind of an end stage of the grass. A lot of people look at this and go, wow, that's a great field. When we're talking species management, there's not a whole lot of diversity there. So that's not ideal for what we're looking for. Next part of successions, we're starting to get these first woody plants. Everyone can probably knows exactly what these are here. That's autumn olive. It's everywhere. We sell it into the districts and plant it. So it's kind of something that was too good of a success. So we're starting to get these woody vegetation coming in. A lot of this green here, it's hard to tell in there, but this is all goldenrod. So you can see how it really can monoculture and take over an area. And the back part there, we got some dogwoods along this hedgerow in the back. So that's where we're starting to get more into that. This is going to be good for rabbits. You'll see a lot more in there. The deer are going to have a lot more woody browse through the wintertime, so they're able to move in. It's also a great area for woodcock and other migratory birds. Next step through succession, as it keeps going, we'll talk about a young woodlot. So we see some birch here, still have this woody plants, a little bit of vegetation on the ground, but we're starting to get some of these softer woods and early succession trees that are growing. So there's back here, there's a few little aspens and poplars back there, and as you get farther back, maybe some more hardwoods. This is great for grouse area. They like the openings to feed. The seeds and buds that come off these aspens in the back and the birch, they live off that. It's great for deer, another good woody browse. And then after this, you start getting into that end stage. So this is old growth. A lot of people would see forests and go, man, my woods are great. But if you look in here, it's kind of a food desert, really, if you're a deer. Anything from here down, there's nothing for them to browse on. So it looks great. You go, man, that's great woods. I'm going to go hunting there. I'm going to see deer. You might see some passing through, but it's kind of a food desert. It looks great, but there's not a whole lot there for them to eat. This spot would be ideal for, say, something like turkeys for a roost. So it's very, very specific. And I'm trying to pick something that would be, everybody, I'm in my little bubble in southern Michigan, so I kind of tend to be more towards the grasslands. But I'm trying to get something that's kind of catered to everybody. So really try to manage what you have, what's out there for species. If you have grassland, don't try to ever get a full, an old growth forest for turkey. If you have an old growth forest, I wouldn't recommend cutting it all the way down, because you want to get a grassland. the landscape, it's going to be what it wants to be. So try to manage. If this is what you have, I would stick for turkey. Try to manage for turkey. It'd be a great canvas to start with. So try not to get too crazy. Stay within your means. Whatever you have on your landscape is basically going to be the best thing for you to start with. So now we'll start getting into the actual species management. So this is my main one that I deal with all the time is pheasants. I'm part of the Michigan Pheasant Restoration Initiative. So our big deal is trying to get habitat on the landscape to benefit pheasants. So when I'm dealing with it, it's going to be mainly that early successional stages. I don't like to see a whole lot of woody stuff. It is benefit for roosting sites and odds and ends. But usually I'm after open grasses. So for pheasants, they're looking at several different requirements. Brood and rearing habitat, so that's going to be some open areas for eating, some grasses that have legumes to hold insects. We're not looking at something too dense to where the chicks could tire themselves out walking through it. So you're really trying to manage this perfect little balance. Monique touched on it with switchgrass being great winter cover. This picture here is depicted of it. This is a landowner in Gratiot, and here's all the pheasant tracks where they're able to feed off the seed heads, and it's easy escape cover to get away from predators. So if you're managing for pheasants, if you can provide brood rearing cover for them and also winter cover, you're going to be doing good. So that'd be my the two things on that. I have a little bit more in specifics if you want to know kind of how many acres are best for what. We can go over that with the questions at the end here. Next, kind of moving up the chain of succession is going to be your white-tailed deer. They basically thrive anywhere. They could be in the cities, they could be in the old growth forest. Either way, you're going to see them. So if you're looking at managing grasslands, you're looking at that early succession. If that's all you have, you're not going to be able to get an old growth forest or a lot of stuff on your landscape in your lifetime to enjoy it. So you're going to look for that kind of early succession. So every 5 to 7 years, you're looking at managing these grasses, maybe do a disturbance, either be herbicide or disking or burn, to try and keep that successional stage where it's at the grasses. This one is actually in a grassland that's out in Gratiot County, so I actually took that picture. The deer just stood right by the road there, was perfectly calm. It was a nice fawning area. Her fawn was there nursing, so it was kind of ideal for what you'd be looking at. If you're looking more kind of a mid-forest, early stage aspen stands, you're really looking at doing like rotational clear cuts. So that would be basically every 10 years or so, you're going to come in and kind of clear cut an area, move, clear cut, and then usually 40 years aspen, it's in that pole quality. It kind of doesn't have much of a benefit to wildlife anymore, so you'd start back over in that area that you cut, say 40 years ago, and just keep these areas. And the best thing to do with that is have a lot of edge. Deer are edge, creature of edge. Don't just do a perfect circle. If you can, try to do some whoop-de-doos and whatever else you can, or little tiny pockets in there. That way they have as much edge as possible. That's where they like to browse. It's easier for them to move around and escape. If you're looking for, say, a northern forest, you're looking to actually kind of reduced disturbances. So say in the UP right now, there's a big push for winter cover for deer. So with hemlocks, they take a long time to regenerate. Same thing with some of your cedars. So you're really looking to not disturb those. You don't want to cut those. You're going to kind of want to leave them be, and that way they can produce winter cover. This picture here kind of shows the depiction of the winter cover. This is a white pine stand on one of my property owners. He did it for deer, and as you can see, that's not working. But the amount of snow cover on the ground, it's much easier for deer to move around through there and forage underneath it when you have a canopy that stays year round. So that's what you're after in the northern forest. You don't want to go in there and do clear cut pockets. You want to stick with your northern hardwoods. You want to keep that to reduce the amount of snow buildup to help the deer get around. It's a lot easier on them. So this would be something I see in kind of my area. We talked about next door if anyone's in there on the logging part. This one here, the landowner basically wanted some species management is what he was after. He wasn't really after getting money for the wood. So what he was doing was after deer. So he was basically looking for some of these larger trees that may not have been the most desirable, where it would have been split here at the bottom. It kind of was growing funky. So basically what he's trying to do is his woods, you can see everything's very vertical, a lot of cover vertical. So an oak tree that grows like this isn't going to produce as much hard mass as an oak tree that grows like that. So what he's trying to do is get rid of some of these older ones that are growing a little weird, and trying to get some of these young ones that are in the understory into their potential to grow up. Also while doing that, it allows a lot of these kind of ironwoods and other other more of an understory tree to get some sunlight and grow. That's great for grouse. They like eating